Hello, dear listeners. Welcome back to Timeless Romance Tales. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more dark aristocratic romance, slow burn devotion, and stories where desire grows in silence. Now let's begin. The horn sounded too late. By the time the riders realized something had gone wrong, the forest had already swallowed the Duke of Calderwin whole. Eliza Moore stood at the edge of the clearing, fingers tightening around the reins of her horse as shouts echoed through the trees. Horses stamped nervously. Men called out commands, voices sharp with unease. "Your Grace!" someone shouted. No answer. Eliza's pulse quickened. She had known the moment the Duke's horse veered too sharply that something was wrong. She had seen it. The sudden snap of movement, the startled animal, the way the Duke's body twisted unnaturally as he disappeared beyond the ridge. "Spread out," the huntmaster ordered. "Find him." Eliza didn't wait. She urged her horse forward, ignoring the protests behind her. Branches scraped her sleeves as she rode deeper into the forest, heart pounding louder than the hooves beneath her. She found him near the ravine. The Duke lay half-supported against a fallen tree, blood darkening his sleeve, his breathing measured but strained. His horse stood nearby, reins trailing, trembling as though it knew better than to flee. Eliza dismounted quickly. "Your Grace," she said, kneeling beside him. Gray eyes lifted to meet hers. For a moment relief flickered across his face, quickly masked by restraint. "Miss Moore," he said quietly, "you shouldn't be here." She ignored that. "You're injured." "A fall," he replied. "Nothing dramatic." She looked at the blood again. "You're bleeding." A pause. "Don't touch me," he said. The words were firm, absolute. Eliza froze. Everyone knew the Duke of Calderwin did not allow touch. Not from servants. Not from physicians unless unavoidable. Not from anyone. She swallowed. "Then we need to get help." "No," he said. "Not yet." She frowned. "You could be seriously hurt." "I know exactly how hurt I am," he replied, jaw tightening. "And I don't need an audience." She hesitated, then said softly, "You're shaking." That made him look at her again. "Really look." "You notice too much," he said. "Someone has to," she replied. His breath hitched just once. Then he said something she never expected. "Help me up." She blinked. "You said." "I said don't touch me," he interrupted. "I didn't say don't help me." She rose carefully, offering her shoulder. He hesitated. Then slowly, deliberately, he leaned into her. The contact was brief, but it changed everything. The Duke of Calderwin had ruled his estate for 10 years without scandal, without indulgence, and without weakness. That was what the world believed. Eliza knew better. She had been his estate secretary for 3 years, quiet, efficient, unremarkable in the way women learned to be when survival depended on invisibility. She organized his correspondence, managed schedules, handled disputes so he never had to raise his voice. And she had learned the truth in fragments. That he slept poorly. That loud noises made his jaw tighten. That he never allowed anyone behind him. And now, injured, bleeding, and alone, he had let her close. They moved slowly toward the path, his weight heavy against her shoulder. "You should let the others know," she said. "No," he replied. "Take me home." She stiffened. "The physicians." "Will come later," he said. "I don't want them yet." She exhaled. "You're impossible." A faint huff of breath escaped him, almost a laugh. "I know." They reached the horses. Eliza helped him mount, steadying him with a hand she was suddenly acutely aware of. He said nothing, but he didn't pull away. She rode beside him the entire way back, watching his posture, his breathing, the tension in his jaw. By the time they reached Calderwin House, his face was pale. The servants rushed forward. "Clear the hall," the Duke ordered quietly. "No one enters my chambers." They obeyed instantly. Inside, Eliza closed the door behind them. Silence fell. "You need to sit," she said. He did. Carefully. She knelt in front of him. "I need to see the wound." "No," he said immediately. She looked up. "Your sleeve is soaked through." "I don't allow." "Touch," she finished calmly. "I know." She paused. "But you allowed me earlier." The words hung between them. His gaze sharpened. That was different. Why? He didn't answer. Eliza reached out slowly, not touching yet, just hovering. If you want me to stop, she said quietly, say so. A long moment passed. Then barely audible. Don't. She took that as permission. His injury was worse than he admitted. A deep gash along his ribs, bruising already blooming across his side. Eliza worked carefully, cleaning the wound with hands that trembled only once. You should have told me, she murmured. I didn't want you frightened, he replied. She glanced up. You underestimate me. He watched her intently as she worked. You aren't afraid, he said. I am, she replied. I just don't show it. Something shifted in his expression. That's dangerous, he said quietly. So is pretending you're unbreakable, she replied. He inhaled sharply as she bandaged him. She paused instantly. I'm sorry. No, he said. Don't stop. Her fingers stilled. Does it hurt? Yes, he said. And yet you're letting me continue. Yes. She met his gaze. Why? His answer was simple. Because you see me. Her breath caught. She finished binding the wound, then helped him lie back against the pillows. You need to rest. And you? He asked. I'll stay, she said automatically. His brow furrowed. You don't need to. I know, she replied. But I will. Silence. Then softly. Stay, he said. Night fell slowly over Calderwin House. Eliza sat beside the bed, listening to the steady rhythm of his breathing. He slept lightly, restless, tense, as though even unconsciousness was a battle. Some point he stirred. Eliza. She leaned closer. I'm here. His eyes opened briefly. Don't leave. I won't. His fingers brushed her sleeve. Just barely. But he didn't pull away. Later, when pain woke him again, she helped him drink water. When his breath caught, she steadied him. When nightmares tugged at the edges of his sleep, she whispered reassurance without knowing exactly why it worked. At dawn he was awake. You didn't sleep, he observed. She smiled faintly. Neither did you. He studied her in the pale morning light. You should hate me, he said. She frowned. Why? For making you stay, he said. For taking something I don't deserve. She shook her head. You didn't take it. A pause. I gave it. That made his throat tighten. Eliza, he said quietly. People don't give things to me without wanting something in return. She met his gaze. I don't want your title, she said. Or your protection. Then what do you want? She answered honestly. I want you to stop pushing everyone away. His jaw tightened. That's not something I can promise. She nodded. Then promise me this. What? That when you're hurting, she said softly, you'll let me help. Another long silence. Then, yes. The injury healed. But something else remained open. The Duke began asking for her. Not formally, not publicly, but quietly. During meals. During late evenings. During moments when the house was still. He allowed her closer. Not just physically, but emotionally. And Eliza learned something profound. That trust, once broken, was rebuilt not by grand gestures, but by quiet choices. And when, weeks later, he took her hand without thinking, neither of them pulled away. Love did not arrive like fire. It arrived like permission. And for the first time in his life, the Duke of Calderwin allowed himself to be touched. Because he finally understood that strength did not mean standing alone. And Eliza Moore stayed. Not because he needed her, but because he chose her. The Duke's recovery should have ended there. It did not. Pain lingered longer than expected. Some mornings he woke rigid with it, breath shallow, jaw clenched so tightly she feared his teeth would crack. Other days it was not his body that ached, but something quieter, heavier that lived behind his eyes. And each time, without summoning her, he looked for Eliza. She learned the signs. The way he dismissed servants more quickly. The way his voice grew shorter, more clipped. The way he stared too long at the window when the house was quiet. One afternoon, she found him standing in the long gallery, one hand braced against the wall, breathing carefully. You should be resting, she said. He didn't turn. I am. You're standing. I needed to remember I still can. She crossed the room and stopped beside him. Not touching, not yet. You don't need to prove anything, she said gently. Yes, he replied, finally looking at her. I do. She saw it then. Not pride. Fear. The kind that came from a man whose body had always obeyed him. Until it didn't. You fell, she said. You survived. And next time? He asked quietly. She hesitated. Then placed her hand over his. If there is a next time, she said, you won't face it alone. His fingers tightened around hers. He did not let go. The first time he asked her to stay the night again, it was almost an afterthought. You may as well remain, he said, eyes fixed on a ledger. The weather is turning. She nodded, pretending her pulse hadn't just betrayed her. It became habit. She would sit near the bed while he read. Sometimes he slept. Sometimes he didn't. Sometimes he simply spoke about estate matters, about old disputes, about nothing at all. Once, in the quiet just before dawn, he said, when I was 12, I broke my arm. She turned toward him, startled. No one came, he continued. They assumed I would manage. I always did. Her chest tightened. That must have hurt. Yes, he said. But not as much as learning no one noticed. She reached for his hand without thinking. He let her. The shift was subtle, but the household felt it. Servants spoke more carefully in Eliza's presence. The steward deferred to her without question. Invitations arrived addressed to them, not just him. And when the Duke took her arm in public for the first time, heads turned. Not in shock. In understanding. He did not explain it. He did not need to. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Eliza found him seated by the fire, eyes closed, one hand resting absently over his ribs. She knelt beside him. Does it still hurt? She asked. Sometimes, he admitted. She hesitated. May I? He nodded. Her fingers brushed his shirt. Warm, careful, reverent. She pressed lightly, feeling the rise and fall of his breath beneath her palm. His breath stuttered. Eliza, he said quietly. She looked up. Too much. No, he replied. Just unexpected. She smiled faintly. You'll have to get used to that. He opened his eyes. I'm not certain I want to, he said. But I don't think I can stop you. She leaned closer. Not touching now, just near enough that he could feel her presence. Good, she said softly. Neither can I. The first kiss was not planned. It happened late, in a moment of exhaustion and honesty. She was standing too close. He was speaking too quietly. The firelight softened the lines of his face until he looked almost unguarded. I don't know what this is, he said. But I know what it isn't. What isn't it? She asked. It isn't convenience, he said. And it isn't gratitude. Her breath caught. Then he kissed her. Slow. Careful. As though asking permission with every inch. She answered by staying. By lifting her hand to his jaw. By not pulling away. When they parted, his forehead rested against hers. This changes things, he said. Yes, she replied. Do you regret it? She smiled. Do you? No, he said immediately. Then paused. But it terrifies me. She leaned closer. Good, she murmured. That means it matters. From then on, touch became language. A hand at her waist when rooms grew crowded. Her fingers brushing his sleeve when his temper flared. His presence behind her when she spoke, silent, solid, unmistakable. And when pain returned, sharp and sudden one morning, he did not hide it. He called for her. Eliza came at once, kneeling beside him, steadying him through each breath. You're allowed to lean, she whispered. He did. Fully. And for the first time, the Duke of Calderwin did not apologize for needing someone. Love did not arrive with declarations. It arrived with trust. With scars exposed and not flinched from. With a man who once refused all touch now reaching for her in the dark. And a woman who stayed, not because he asked, but because he finally let her choose. And Eliza Moore chose him. Again. And again. And again.